Have you ever felt the quiet pain of being misunderstood? The more you try to explain yourself, the more people twist your words. The harder you fight for the truth, the more exhausted you seem. And slowly, you begin to wonder, why does defending myself feel like losing? Most people react. They argue. They try harder to prove they are right. But the more they chase validation, the more they lose their peace. Because every reaction gives away a piece of their power. But what if the real strength is not in speaking louder? What if your greatest power is silence? Not the silence of weakness, but the silence of control. A silence so calm, so unshakable, that lies begin to expose themselves. Provocation loses its power, and truth slowly reveals itself. In this video, you will discover 6 powerful moments when silence becomes your greatest weapon. 6 situations where saying nothing protects your dignity, your energy, and your inner peace. Because sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. When you are angry, have you ever said something in anger and wished you could take it back the moment the words left your mouth? A single sentence, one moment of lost control, and suddenly everything changes. Relationships crack, respect fades, and the person who provoked you walks away calmly, while you are left carrying the weight of regret. Anger feels powerful in the moment. It burns fast. It demands a reaction. Your mind races with words you want to throw back. You want to prove them wrong. You want to defend your dignity. You want them to feel the pain they just caused you. But here is the truth most people never realize. The moment you react in anger, you give away your power. Marcus Aurelius once warned that anger is a form of weakness, not because emotions are wrong, but because anger can turn a strong mind into a servant of its own feelings. In that moment, you are no longer choosing your actions. Your emotions are choosing them for you. And emotions are terrible leaders. Think about the last time you were truly angry. Maybe someone insulted you. Maybe someone misunderstood your intentions. Maybe someone betrayed your trust. Your heart started racing. Your voice got louder. Your words came faster than your thoughts. And for a few seconds, it felt like victory. But hours later, when silence returned, you realized something painful. You didn't win. You only lost control. The Stoics understood something powerful about anger. They knew that anger is not the enemy. The real danger is acting while the fire is still burning. That is why their greatest weapon was simple: silence. When anger rises, silence creates space. Space between emotion and action. Space between impulse and wisdom. Instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You step back and observe the storm inside your mind. And something incredible begins to happen. The fire starts to fade. What felt urgent suddenly feels small. What felt personal suddenly looks different. In that moment, you reclaim your power, because the person who made you angry only controls you if you react exactly the way they expected. But when you remain calm, when you refuse to take the bait, you break the entire game. Your silence becomes a mirror. While they shout, provoke, and try to shake you, they are forced to face the noise of their own behavior. And you remain composed, unshaken, in control. That kind of calm is rare in this world. Anyone can react. Anyone can argue. Anyone can explode. But the person who pauses, who masters their emotions, who chooses silence over chaos, that person carries real power. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever stayed silent in a moment when you could have exploded? If you have, you know how powerful that moment feels. Write this in the comments. I choose silence over anger. Because every time you pause, instead of reacting, you are not losing the battle. You are mastering yourself. And in a world where everyone reacts without thinking, the one who stays calm always wins. When others speak ill of you, have you ever felt the sting of hearing lies about yourself? Not criticism, not honest feedback, but twisted stories, half-truths, rumors whispered behind your back. It feels like an earthquake beneath your feet. Your name suddenly no longer belongs to you. Your reputation is now in the hands of people who barely know the truth, and the pain cuts deep. Because when someone spreads lies about you, your first instinct is simple. You want to fight back. You want to explain, to defend your name, to prove to everyone that what they heard is not who you are. But here is the painful paradox. The more you try to explain, the more oxygen those lies receive. Every argument feeds the fire. Every defense keeps the story alive. And suddenly, the lie becomes the center of attention, not the truth. This is why the Stoics warned about a hidden trap in human conflict. Some people do not want the truth. They want your reaction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something brutally simple. If what they say is true, correct yourself. If it is false, ignore it. At first, this sounds impossible. How can you ignore something that attacks your character? But think about this for a moment. When someone lies about you, they are already revealing something about themselves. Their jealousy, their insecurity, their need to pull others down. And when you react emotionally, you step directly into the stage they created. But silence removes the audience. Imagine a workplace situation. A man is accused of cheating to gain a promotion. The rumor spreads quickly. People whisper. Colleagues look at him differently. He has two choices. He can chase every rumor, argue with everyone, defend himself endlessly, or he can do something much harder. He stays calm. He continues his work. He shows up with the same discipline, the same integrity. Weeks pass. Eventually, the truth emerges. The person who started the rumor was driven by jealousy. And suddenly, the man who stayed silent appears stronger than anyone in the room. Not because he argued louder, but because he never lowered himself into the chaos. This is the quiet power of silence. In the first lesson, we learned that silence protects you from the destruction of anger. But here, silence does something even more powerful. It allows time to expose the truth. Lies move fast, but truth moves with weight. and weight eventually crushes everything false. Now I want you to think about something. Has anyone ever misunderstood you or spread something about you that was not true? How did you react? Did you argue or did you stay calm? Write this in the comments. Truth doesn't need noise because the strongest reputation is not defended with words. It is proven through time, actions, and character. And in the next lesson, we are going even deeper. Because sometimes the pain is not rumors from strangers. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from something far worse. Betrayal. When you are betrayed, few things cut deeper than betrayal. Not the betrayal of an enemy, but the betrayal of someone you trusted. Someone you opened your heart to. Someone who knew your secrets. Someone who once stood beside you, and one day, they turn against you. The pain hits like a storm inside your chest. Your mind replays every memory, every conversation, every moment you believed they were different. And one question echoes louder than anything else. How could they do this to me? Betrayal doesn't just break trust. It shakes your faith in people. Your first instinct is almost automatic. You want answers. You want an apology. You want them to feel the pain they caused. You imagine confronting them, explaining everything they did wrong, making them understand what they destroyed. But here is the harsh truth. Someone who truly betrayed you already knew what they were doing. And no argument, no explanation, no angry speech will suddenly awaken their conscience. The Stoics understood something powerful about betrayal. When someone wrongs you, they reveal their character, but how you respond reveals yours. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that when people do wrong, they harm themselves first. Their actions expose the weakness within them long before they damage you. And this is where most people make their biggest mistake. They chase revenge. They chase closure. They chase explanations. But the more energy they spend chasing the person who betrayed them, the longer they remain chained to that pain. Silence breaks that chain. Silence is not surrender. Silence is walking away with dignity. Imagine a woman who discovers that her closest friend revealed a deeply personal secret about her. The betrayal feels unbearable. She wants to confront her friend, demand an apology, and force them to admit their wrongdoing. But instead, she chooses something unexpected. She says nothing. She steps back from the friendship. She moves forward with her life. No drama, no public accusations, no angry messages, just quiet distance. Months later, the friend returns, filled with regret. But by then, something inside her has already changed. The anger is gone. The need for revenge is gone. Because silence gave her something more valuable than an apology. It gave her freedom. Epictetus once taught that suffering does not come from what happens to us, but from how we react to it. If you respond with rage, the betrayal continues to live inside you. But when you respond with calm silence, the power returns to you. And something else begins to happen. Time becomes your ally. Because people who betray others rarely stop at one betrayal. Eventually, their nature reveals itself to everyone. You do not need to expose them. They will expose themselves. and your silence becomes the loudest statement of all. It says, I know my worth. I will not beg for loyalty. I will not lower myself to revenge. That kind of quiet strength is rare. Anyone can scream in anger. Anyone can seek revenge. But the person who walks away calmly, that person cannot be broken. Now I want you to reflect for a moment. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted deeply? If you have, you understand how painful that lesson can be. Write this in the comments. I walk away with dignity. Because betrayal is not just pain. It is a filter. It shows you who truly deserves a place in your life and who is only meant to teach you a lesson. And in the next lesson, we will explore another moment where silence reveals true wisdom. The moment when the strongest thing you can do is simply choose not to speak. When you have nothing valuable to say. Have you ever been in a room where everyone is talking, but nothing meaningful is being said? Voices everywhere, opinions flying, people speaking faster and louder just to be noticed. Yet somehow, the more they talk, the less anyone listens. It's like standing in the middle of a storm of noise, and deep down, you feel something strange. You realize that most words are not spoken to share wisdom. They are spoken to prove something, to impress, to dominate the conversation. And that pressure can be overwhelming. Because in today's world, silence makes people uncomfortable. If you don't speak quickly, people assume you have nothing to say. If you pause, they think you are weak. So many people begin talking, not because they have something meaningful to say, but because they are afraid of being invisible. But the Stoics understood something that most people forget. Not every silence is empty. Some silences are powerful. Seneca once wrote that wise people do not speak more than others. They simply speak at the right time, and only when their words carry weight. Think about a meeting at work. One person talks nonstop. They repeat ideas. They interrupt others. At first, it sounds impressive, but slowly, something changes. People stop listening. Their words become background noise. Then someone else, who has been silent the whole time, finally speaks. Just one calm sentence. Clear, thoughtful, precise. And suddenly, the entire room becomes quiet. Everyone listens. Why? Because silence creates gravity. When you don't waste words, your words gain power. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of something simple, yet profound. Do not waste time talking about what a good person should be. Be one. In other words, actions speak louder than endless explanations. Silence gives you the space to observe, to listen, to understand the situation fully. When you speak less, you begin to notice things others miss. The tone in someone's voice, the hidden tension in a room, the difference between truth and ego. Silence sharpens your awareness. And the truth is, many arguments in life are fueled by unnecessary words. Words spoken too quickly. Words spoken to defend pride. Words spoken simply because the silence felt uncomfortable. But the strongest minds are not afraid of quiet moments. They are comfortable with stillness. because they know something powerful. When you speak less, people listen more. When you choose your words carefully, those words carry impact. And when you remain silent, instead of filling every moment with noise, you protect your energy. Now take a moment and reflect on your own life. How many arguments started because someone said too much? How many misunderstandings came from words spoken without thought? Silence could have prevented many of them. So here is a simple challenge for you. The next time you feel the urge to speak, pause for a moment. Ask yourself one question. Will these words bring value? If the answer is no, let silence speak instead. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment where saying less actually gave you more respect? If you have, write this in the comments. Silence is strength. Because in a world full of noise, the person who knows when to stay silent is often the wisest voice in the room. When someone provokes you without reason, have you ever met someone who seems determined to push your buttons? No matter what you say, they twist your words. No matter how calm you try to be, they keep provoking you. A sarcastic remark, a subtle insult, a comment designed to make you lose control. And suddenly, you feel it rising. Your chest tightens. Your jaw clenches. Your mind fills with the perfect response that will finally put them in their place. In that moment, it feels like you must react. Because if you stay silent, it feels like losing. But here is the truth that most people never realize. The moment you react, you have already stepped into their trap. Some people are not looking for truth. They are looking for your reaction. They want your anger, your frustration, your emotional explosion. Because when you lose control, they win. Epictetus once said something brutally honest. If someone can make you angry, they become your master. Think about that for a moment. The person provoking you suddenly has power over your emotions, your peace, your energy, your focus, all handed to them in one reaction. This is why the Stoics practiced something powerful. They refused to play the game. Imagine a man named Michael working in a competitive office. One of his co-workers constantly tries to provoke him during meetings. Sarcastic jokes, interruptions, passive-aggressive comments. At first, Michael reacts. He explains himself. He argues back. Sometimes he even raises his voice. And every time he reacts, the provocations get worse. Until one day, he makes a different choice. The next time the coworker throws another sarcastic remark, Michael simply pauses. He looks at him calmly. Then he continues speaking as if nothing happened. No anger, no defense, no argument, just calm focus. At first, the coworker tries again. Another comment, another jab. But something strange begins to happen. Without a reaction, the provocation has no fuel. The tension dies. The game ends. Because arguments need two players. When one person refuses to participate, the conflict collapses. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this simple truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You cannot control what people say. You cannot control their intentions. But you can control one thing that changes everything: your response, or sometimes your lack of response. Silence in the face of provocation is not weakness. It is discipline. It is emotional mastery. It shows that your mind cannot be easily shaken by someone else's insecurity. And something even more powerful happens. When you stay calm, people around you begin to notice. They see who is trying to create chaos, and they see who remains steady. Your silence becomes a quiet form of authority. Now think about your own life. Have you ever argued with someone who clearly only wanted to provoke you? Did the argument solve anything, or did it only drain your energy? Sometimes the strongest move is simply refusing to play. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a pointless argument and felt your peace return immediately? If you have, write this in the comments. My peace is not for sale. Because in a world full of people looking for conflict, the one who protects their calm always holds the real power. When you are undervalued or unappreciated, have you ever given your best and felt like no one noticed? You work hard. You stay loyal. You show up again and again. But somehow you are invisible. Others get the praise. Others get the opportunity. Others get the recognition. And inside, a quiet question begins to grow. Am I not good enough? That question can be brutal, because being ignored sometimes hurts more than being criticized. When you are criticized, at least you are seen. But when you are undervalued, it feels like your effort means nothing, and the natural reaction is powerful. You want to prove them wrong. You want to show everyone your value. You want recognition. You want respect. But here is the trap many people fall into. The more you chase validation, the more power you give to those who never appreciated you in the first place. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something simple but deeply powerful. A man's worth is measured by what he thinks of himself. In other words, your value cannot depend on someone else's opinion, because opinions change, but character does not. Imagine a man who worked at the same company for 10 years. He arrives early. He leaves late. He solves problems quietly. Yet when a promotion becomes available, someone else receives it. Someone louder. Someone more visible. The disappointment is crushing. For a moment, he thinks about quitting. He thinks about confronting his managers. He thinks about proving that they made the wrong decision. But instead, he does something different. He stays silent, not because he is weak, but because he understands something powerful. True value does not shout. It shows itself through consistency. So he continues working with the same discipline, the same focus, the same integrity. Months later, the company faces a serious crisis. Projects fail, pressure rises, and suddenly, the leadership realizes something important. A quiet employee is the only one capable of solving the problem. Not because he demanded attention, but because his actions had been speaking the entire time. In that moment, he does not say, "I told you so." He does not demand recognition. He simply does the work, and everyone finally sees what was always there. Seneca once said something that strikes directly at the heart of this lesson. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. People may overlook you. They may underestimate you. They may even doubt you. But the moment you begin doubting yourself, that is when the real damage begins. Silence in moments of disrespect is not surrender. It is self-respect. It says something powerful without words. I know my value. I do not need to beg for recognition. My actions will speak when the time is right. And time always reveals the truth. Now take a moment and reflect on your own life. Have you ever felt overlooked, even when you knew you were capable of more? If you have, you are not alone. But remember this: your worth is not determined by applause. It is built through discipline, character, and patience. So instead of chasing approval, focus on becoming undeniable. And when the moment finally comes, you will not need to explain anything. Your work will speak for you. If this message resonates with you, write this in the comments: I know my worth. Because the people who truly understand their value never need to shout to be heard. Have you noticed something powerful through all these lessons? In a world where everyone is shouting, arguing, reacting without thinking, the calmest person in the room often holds the greatest power. Silence is not weakness. It is discipline. It is self-mastery. It is the quiet strength of someone who refuses to waste energy on battles that do not deserve it. When you protect your peace, you protect your life. If this message spoke to you, take a second to support the channel. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next lesson on Stoic wisdom, inner strength, and mastering your mind. And before you go, comment below: silence